All right, welcome for another episode of Talk to Tatiana, and I'm excited to have Sharon with me today. Welcome, Sharon.
Yes, thank you, Tatiana. It's great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Absolutely. So, Sharon, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and what kind of floats your boat.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so my name is Sharon Hujik, and I am a mom. Primarily, I have three kids. They are ages 15, 13, and 11. And of course, like most moms, I'm very proud of them. They're fantastic. And in addition to being their mom, I also work with women who freelance in digital marketing. And my passion is helping other women who, like us, have decided to be entrepreneurs and show them how they can build financially successful businesses. Um, my goal is to show every woman how they can land a $10,000 client if they're working in digital marketing. And I've been able to realize that. It took me a long time. And I would much rather see other women see success sooner than what I experienced. I've been freelancing since 2009. And it took me almost 10 years to sort of crack the code on what I was doing. It was really a slog for a long time. I mean, financially, it was a lot of hours and not a lot of pay. And in 2018, I sort of had an aha moment when I realized there is much more potential to generate real substantial revenue. And it was a different approach and a different tactic than I had been using before. And once I kind of cracked that code, it really created financial opportunity. And now I'm just very passionate about helping other women see the same results and achieve the same things that I have. Because ultimately, I just feel like, all of us women, moms, we are challenged by having to do so many different things, whether it's, some people are doing a 9 to 5, trying to, freelance side hustle, raise kids, juggle soccer practices. Some people have chosen to, be a freelancer and an entrepreneur, but they still have to fold the laundry and make dinner every night. And, it's just one of the complexities of being a woman in this field and being successful is, you need to make your efforts and your energy profitable. We don't really have the luxury of spending 30 hours a week at $25 an hour. It's just not worth it. So I just delight in the fact that I have taken that journey and have learned how to be able to help other women do that too. And it's a great joy of mine. I just find we want to help. I want to help other women have success. So that's kind of my passion.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And how
thanks.
did you get started? I mean, we connected initially because I was looking for a case study of someone who's worked in corporate, kind of someone who went the traditional route, someone who, I don't know whether it's parents or society or school or all of it together, kind of told you have to go to college, you have to get a job, you have to, build a career or whatever.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about your journey on that.
Yeah. Honestly, I tended to be a very traditional person. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City. I went to a very, lovely and beautiful public high school in Rockland County, New York. I went to an Ivy League school. I, had every privilege and opportunity that represented. I graduated and I just, I followed the path to corporate America. I worked for a corporate, really successful pharmaceutical company. I had great um, you know, I was very good at it. I was in sales and marketing and I led teams of people and I really enjoyed that experience greatly. And I was there for about 15 years. And during that time, I had financial success. I had respect. I was a leader. I was an executive. I was doing things that I really enjoyed. And in the background of all of that, I was also trying to start a family. And my husband and I, for many years, were trying to get pregnant. And we had the challenges that come with infertility. And, finally, there was that morning when we woke up and we saw that, pregnancy stick and it had two little lines on it. And it's just like everything sort of shifted for me. Like, oh my gosh, like this is now my priority. And, in some ways I had the luxury of time because I had 15 years as a single woman, as a couple, where I wasn't trying to juggle all of it. And I was now faced with this decision, like, I want all of it. I want to be his mom at home, taking him to preschool or taking him to soccer practice. I don't want to be booking flights across the country or being, kind of someone else controlling my schedule. And that was in 2009. And honestly, I didn't know anybody else that was working from home. I never met another woman who was freelancing. I mean, mommy bloggers were really big at the time, if you remember. And I like, okay, well, maybe this is how you do it. Like, I just didn't know any better, but I wanted to figure it out. I was just really motivated to take a very strong mind. I had a lot of talents. I knew could be successful. I just didn't know how. And I set out to figure that, to kind of unlock it. And again, I mean, it was hard. Nobody really showed me how to do it. And there probably were people doing it. I just didn't know them. I started out as a web developer. I pretty much Googled it. Which is so insane when you think about it. But I spent, very, very, very late nights. My first client paid me $35, literally. And I was thrilled. I'm happy to say my most recent client paid me $36,000. So I've made a pretty good improvement in terms of my skill set and my ability to generate revenue. But I was very motivated. And then, you just basically hustle it and think about it. And creativity and entrepreneurship requires us, you never stop learning. You always are looking for ways to strengthen it. I love learning. I love to read. I love to talk to people. I love to just keep making my skills stronger. Yeah. So I very traditional for the first half of my life. I was very much the sort of straight and narrow. My girlfriend now refers to me as a badass rebel because I just sort of gave up on that. Like, I don't want somebody else to tell me when I get to take a vacation. I don't want to have somebody else to tell me that this is where, I live because I have this job. To me, that's too confining for the life I really genuinely love and want to keep living. So yeah, sorry, badass rebel. I guess that's me, which is really funny because I'm like a homeschooling, church going mom. I don't necessarily I don't have a motorcycle or anything, but I really like to have control over my day and my time, and freelancing and doing what I do allows me to have that. It's awesome.
Awesome. And kind of like taking you back to when you did make that decision, did you actually leave your job when you got pregnant, or how was that?
I was really fortunate in the fact that the company kind of providentially was going through a restructuring. And they announced the month before I got pregnant that they were basically saying, the sales force that I was leading is going to be dissolved. So you have an opportunity to find another position in the company. But if you don't, we'll give you a package. And the next month I got pregnant. Literally, Tatiana, I'd been trying to get pregnant for years, like infertility, every intervention known to man at the time, I was trying. And then that month, literally, I retired it was a leap year. So I retired from that job February 29th. And my son was born March 29th. So I just basically took their offer, walked with it. And it was a really lovely parachute. I mean, obviously, to start as a new mom, trying to figure out how to do a job and still have some income coming in was really a luxury. Most people don't have that. Most of the women I work with now are either, trying to work their 9 to 5 and launch their business, which is just challenging, or have chosen to be home with their kids and now are, trying to build up a business, both of which are really challenging. I mean, it's a tricky thing to do both. And my ability to help them get there faster sort of softens that blow a little bit.
So you didn't have anything like burnout necessarily at your job or corporate job, right? It was more of a natural kind of transition, kind of accidental almost.
Yeah, accidental, providential, however you would want to describe it. I think the burnout was I didn't see a way that I was going to be able to do both jobs with excellence. And I know there are women who do it. I mean, who are outstanding moms and outstanding executives and put their heart and soul into everything. I just looked at it and I'm like, I don't know that I could give this new child who I have been, desperately hoping for everything I can give him while also giving that same passion and energy to the team of people that I was leading it. And I just had to choose, like, where is my first priority going to be? And I don't in any way undermine or criticize other people who make a different choice. I mean, I was making 80% of our income. So my husband is a conservationist. I mean, he doesn't wasn't so for our family, it was a sacrifice for me to step away from that. And I would do it again in a heartbeat because that's just kind of that was where you look at your list of priorities, which one is it? And that was, this new baby that was coming so it wasn't so much a burnout. It was like my priorities shifted and I wanted to be excellent at that and give it all of my attention. And, that's everybody has to make those choices. We're all juggling lots of things, but something always, you can't have three priorities. That's sort of, it's a contradiction. Like a priority literally means the pinnacle, like the one that's at the top.
Yeah.
And as much as I wear lots of hats, I chose to put that one at the top.
I totally understand how you feel because I made the similar choice.
Yeah.
And I've actually read a book maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and the book was called The One Thing. And the author
Yes, exactly. Like what's essential.
the author talks about the fact that priority is singular. It's not plural. And I agree with that. I think that there's one priority. And for me, it certainly has been, I guess, the reason behind everything. And I kind of, and this, I don't want this to come as a kind of a judgment or anything to anybody else. But I don't think, and I've never met women who have a full-time job as an executive and thrive as a mother and actually raise their own kids, meaning maybe they have help. There's nothing wrong with that, but actually being there, I don't think it's just possible, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of comes down to, you know, we only have so much energy. And it's not to say that you and I can't do other things with excellence, but when push comes to shove, I'm going to have to choose like which one outranks the other. If push came to shove, if I was saying, hey, my company was saying, I need you to be in San Diego for the next 2 weeks to launch this product, my first priority would be like, I have this child. And, and I think honestly, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to make that decision when I was 25. I had a real luxury of being single-minded about my business career for a long time. And then it sort of naturally redirected towards my family. And I will say that doesn't go away just because now I've chosen not to be an executive with a core. I mean, I still have to make that choice as a freelancer and as an entrepreneur regularly. Like, where does my time first get prioritized? And that's just right. That's just life. I mean, there's no way around it. Almost
Yeah.
on a daily basis, you're like, I have to choose what's the most important thing to do today. Yet at the same time, like I have remarkable children. I mean, that little boy who was born is now 15. And I look at that and I wouldn't trade a moment of the last 15 years. I mean, there's just so much good that came out of that decision. And, I have 3 children. Each one is just an amazing, delightful human being. And I'm so grateful that I had this chance to to give them that priority and to make really good money in this entrepreneurial gig that we do. It's Mary Oliver has a poem, this one wild and precious life, and it's basically charging us like, you have one, what are you going to do with it? Like, how are you going to spend this one wild and precious life? It's powerful. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
worth it though.
I've actually met this guy once at a playground. So I quit my job, and I knew that I would go back to being free, liberated accountant, as I was called by somebody. I knew that because before I started a full time CPA firm, you need to get that experience to get the license.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so before I started it, I was running for 3 years. I've been running my own bookkeeping business,
Yeah.
and so I kind of already, and I've been going to school, so I was running my schedule like it was crazy. I was taking 5 classes and 5 businesses and stuff like that. But when I went to work for this company, it's a small firm in New York City, a fairly small firm, 25 people, 7 partners. Um, I mean, I loved it in the beginning. 6 months, the typical honeymoon period. Everybody loved me. I loved everything and
Yeah.
everybody. But after 6 months, I realized that I will eventually quit and do my own thing. And I did. I did when I got pregnant,
Yeah.
and I got pregnant right before tax season, so it was in late December. Uh,
So you're nauseous and exhausted.
well, so I didn't want my child to suffer the stress of tax season because you had
Oh,
certain requirements. So I kind of gave my notice in late December, and I said I'll be there to support them as a freelancer, but I'm not going to be there full time.
yeah.
And that worked really well for them. It worked really well for me. And then after that, I started my own business, and it was hard financially for us for some time
Yeah.
because I didn't have a certain salary. I was growing my business, but it all worked out in the end. And right, one of the reasons that I kind of in 2009 I went through a transformation where I hired a coach. I went through a specific tax planning training, which is proactive tax reduction, which is only about 2,000 people in the country do that.
Wow.
And within 3 years of that, I quadrupled my income while reducing the client count from about 120 to about 40 something.
That's fantastic.
And a part of that was also because I was making good money that we could barely survive. Like we were paying bills, but at the same time, and the reason I'm telling you this is because I think there are people listening for whom it's good information, and I haven't shared this part before. But I was making a certain amount that was barely paying our bills. Like we were not getting into debt, but at the same time, then I was working a lot, and usually I would use the summer. Like we would not sign up kids for like a camp in the summer when they
Sure.
were little
Yeah.
because it was stressful and they were little, and I really used that time to reconnect with them. And this one summer, I would July and August, I would schedule something and the client would call, when are you free? And I would look at my calendar and it's totally free, right? I don't have any specific commitments, but at the same time, the work needs to be done. The books need to be updated. The tax returns need to be finished up. And I would schedule these people on I would have 1 or 2 meetings a day, all 5 days a week. And so I couldn't take the kids to a trip to the park or to the farm or whatever. And it
Huh.
was really frustrating for me. And I really felt like I lost that summer with them,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what pushed me into going to coaching, and I needed to change something, and I'm
Yeah.
happy that I did. But it was also because I had very clearly had my priority of the family, and
Yeah.
family is number one. Yes, sometimes, very rarely, do I work the weekend.
Yeah.
Like this past weekend I worked because I had gestalt therapy. I'm studying psychology. I'm a crazy learning nut.
I love it.
But but that's an exception. Generally,
Yeah.
my weekends and my nights are off limits
Yeah.
to clients
Yeah.
or calls, and I'm okay saying no to business for that reason.
Yeah. Well, I think
But I
that's really interesting. You made so many, comments in there that like really resonate with me because you were talking about like you were working really hard and you had this external kind of force controlling your time and your schedule. But there's also sometimes clients, like just the fact that there's only so much money that one specific client is either willing to pay you because you're commoditized with a service. Oh, X, I can get X here and X minus 10 there. So I'll go, with that one. Ultimately, what we're hoping to do and what the way I work with women predominantly is like help them find an audience where their strengths and their talents and their ability to resonate with them differentiates them from everybody else. So then they can really start adding zeros to their prices. Like your ability to both be an accountant and a bookkeeper and coach other people for their businesses is like your swirl. It's like you go to the ice cream shop, right? And you say, I want this combination of flavors that's uniquely you. The beautiful thing is women have that. They're always multitasking. They're always multi-passionate, combining, their interests maybe in, like in my case, it was web development combined with my marketing expertise and my ability to teach and train and coach creates my unique ability to help other women who desire that. Like I understand the tech, the marketing, and I'm a, really strong and kind of passionate coach to help people do that. And that's where the transformation happens, is that you take what's uniquely you, and then you find the person who is like, that brings so much more value than just the tool, right?
Yeah.
You're not just a bookkeeper anymore. You're kind of opening up opportunities for somebody who it wants that more than they want their taxes done or more than their accounts reconciled or whatever it might be. And I think
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why I work only with women, is because I feel like there's just such beauty in finding that piece of what's uniquely, specifically Sharon Hujik, that gives my talents and interests a voice to be able to connect with people. And honestly, in a corporate culture, you can't really express all that stuff, right? Because you have someone else's mission, someone else's objectives, someone else's goals. You get your sales quotas or you don't necessarily have the freedom to just say, hey, this is me. Or if you do, you risk HR, what did you mean when you said, so there's just a lot of, I think, joy and passion that comes out of having that freedom. Like you talked about, like, I want to prioritize this time with my children. I want to take control over my schedule, and then compounding it with what is uniquely your passions, combining them. And
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, and I've never worked necessarily for corporate America, and so that's why I don't really have any experience with that. And that's why I was interested in learning kind of how your experience worked out, and I found a lot of interesting ideas. So sometimes things work out um, better than you would ever expect, I think.
Yeah, I'm a testimony to that. I can't say that corporate America. I had a lot of success in corporate America. I think there were plenty of every job has its challenges. Probably the challenges that I faced most were, tended to be, you know, bosses, managers, up levels. I think they really impact people. I had the good fortune of just having a great team, and I worked with them a lot, and I advanced really quickly. So my experience in corporate wasn't as bad as probably other people's experiences. And it still didn't give me what I wanted. I mean, financially, it did. Financially, it was, it was very nice to get a check at the end of every month and be like, oh, this is great. And I'm more proud of the money I'm making now because I know I earned it. Like, there's no question that I built this. I have created this, success, and failure too. I mean, not all of it works. Like, but there's that sort of sense of like, I don't know, maybe it's like a sense of like a frontiersman. Like, I'm facing these challenges. I have to figure out this problem. I have to be able to tap in to the resources and find the coach or find the tool or whatever it might be. It's really challenging, and I think it's particularly challenging for people who are smart and you want to be challenged, right? You thrive on problem solving. I love that part of my entrepreneur journey. Like, I don't know how to do this. Yeah, it's stressful. I mean, like, you sort of have to get comfortable with being like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't know what I'm doing. And actually this week, probably the thing I'm learning more than anything is like, I have to be comfortable with the fact that there will be mistakes. There will be things that didn't go well, and they're very public. Do you feel that way sometimes? Like, I like sent out an email and every link in it was a 404. Every link broke. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how did I miss that? But the reality is I'm human. I was tired. I sent it out. I should have checked it. And I was able to just basically own it the next morning and be like, sorry, guys, here's a link that works. And I cannot pretend that I have everything figured out. And you do it anyway. That's just how this game is played. You don't let your pride
Unfortunately,
hold you back. You just do it anyway.
I think unfortunately, we all make mistakes. I mean, I wish as a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist, really, um, you have to learn to live with that. Do
Yeah.
your best, do your absolute best, and not try. I hate the word try because it doesn't really mean anything,
Mm.
but always give it, always commit to excellence, always give it 100%. And if you've done everything that you could do, it's okay if you made a
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes, is for accountants, mistake can be money costly, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had a friend who did a form incorrectly. One form a couple of years ago cost a client over 4 years about $1.2 million in additional
Oh,
tax.
ouch.
But the good thing is that the client is selling that business and they're getting 40 something million for it, and for them $1.2 million, it's the tax that was due anyway. It's not like they are paying something they're not supposed to be paying. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
But the accountant, she was worried because she only had $1 million coverage on her malpractice insurance, things like
Oh my
that.
gosh. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, not especially accountants. I mean, that's funny that you describe yourself as a recovering perfectionist. It's probably like a requirement to be an accountant, is like you have to be a perfectionist. I've
Yes.
just learned, and I say this a lot, like the fastest way to find a leak is to turn on the water. And when you're an entrepreneur, and especially if you don't have a team, and a lot of the women I work with are solopreneurs, they are out there starting their business and they haven't hired a VA yet, and they don't have subcontractors that they work with consistently, and so they're being asked to do a lot of different things. And I love to show people like, hey, there's value in creating teams to support you and not and bring in people who will buttress you up. But when they first start working with me, you basically have to be comfortable with the fact that you're going to make a mistake. And the fastest way to find those mistakes is action. Like if you are consumed with having it perfect, whether it's your website or your offer or your, proposal template, or like you have to master, sales funnels or master Facebook ads, you're never going to get started. And you're going to make a mistake, and then you'll be like, okay, I made a mistake. I will, now I know better next time. You
Yeah.
just have action cures fear, right? And it's very easy to get overwhelmed. I find the people who take action, even if it's imperfect, are going to move ahead faster, sooner, more profitably than if you're paralyzed by the idea that it's not done yet. It's not perfect yet. I don't have a software, or I don't have a website that looks exactly the way I want it to, or anything. Those can be just real distractions to getting paid, landing clients, increasing your prices. My goal is $10,000 clients for every single person who I work with. And people who take action and implement my coaching are the ones who get there the fastest.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
people who overthink and worry and kind of put up barriers between those actions, it's frustrating, but it is longer and slower and harder. So where I love is I hold you accountable. Like I'll be like, okay, we talked. This was the agreement. You said you were going to reach out to these 4 people. Where and I don't know about you, but I that helps me a lot, and I see it for the women I coach. That helps them a lot. Just basically somebody saying like, this is the plan. Let's stick with it. Let's implement it. I think that's one of the best parts about coaching, to help just create some of that external structure. I mean, corporate America does that well. Entrepreneurship probably needs more of that. So, yeah, that's my take on it. You find leaks faster if you turn on the water.
What if you could go back in time and change one thing? What would that be?
Oh gosh, I know this one for sure. I think because I started out as a freelancer, primarily like I want to try and figure out how to make money, I allowed myself for too long to try and and like conserve my resources. And I didn't invest in coaching, training. I pretty much was like the queen of like, I'm going to Google this or YouTube this or find a hack or whatever. And I mean, I was just sharing this the other day with my team. Like I literally can remember a time in like 2015 where I was like hemming and hawing. I was needed help, and I almost joined like a really awesome membership. It was like $50 a month. And it took me like days to be like, should I do it? Would this make sense? Like, and I mean, I would go to like the website and like think about it and chicken out. And I'm like, I don't know. And then of course, I mean, you know what happened. I invested in that program. Within minutes, I like was like, oh my gosh, there's so much help here. Look at all these people who like they solve these problems. I mean, and in web development, which is where I started, like it's a slog. It's a hat. You know, you're trying to fix layouts and applications and all these things. And also, I had this like people just would share code with me, and I was like, for $47 a month, I saved like 10 hours of time every single month. And I was like, man, if only I could go back and rewind the clock 6 years before that when I first started to be like, this is going to work. Like, invest in your business while it's young because it always is profitable for me. I spend a lot of money now receiving coaching to be a better coach for the women who work with me. I invest in that now because everything about that investment is amplified. I know more, I'm more confident. I have somebody helping me problem solve. I have someone holding me accountable. It all always produces more financial reward, and it just strengthens my whole business. So the best thing I would say, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I don't know, would working with Tatiana make sense financially? The answer is hell yeah. Or if you're thinking, oh, Sharon, she really seems to know what she's talking about, you're right. And it really is worthwhile to invest in help because it just, everything you do is easier, it saves time, and it makes you more money, which is what we're trying to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I was there, so I kind of feel like I get that hesitation to like not spend money because you're trying to earn money, right? You're like, I can't invest money in this because I'm trying to make money. And it's just like that upside down equation of like when you invest in something, healthy things grow and change and evolve. And having that guidance to make sure you're doing that in the most profitable way is invaluable. That's what I would say to you. So yeah, you can tell I feel
Absolutely.
strongly about that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think the word coach has been slightly overused and kind of became a cliche, but honestly, I think most people don't even know what coaching means. And
Hmm.
most people think that coaching is when a person tells you what to do, which actually isn't totally true. The actual word coach, according to the International Coaching Federation, is when you listen, reflect, and ask questions.
Yeah.
It's client using their own resource to actually change whatever it is. And the problem
Yeah.
is that when you work with businesses and people who are trying to build their business, they sometimes don't have that resource of their own. And sometimes you need to tell them what to do. And which is why I call what I do coaching advisory, because sometimes I tell you what to do and sometimes I make you take responsibility for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think I would have never been where I am if I hadn't invested in myself. And it really, honestly, the way I look at it is, if it if there's anybody in this world worth betting on, it's me.
Yeah.
I know that I'm my best bet, and so does everybody else. But somehow people forget that they
Yeah.
are their own best investment.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say there's two things in addition to that is like sometimes you need to feel the pinch to be like, I am investing. This is not coming easy. I am putting hard-earned money into something because then you raise your game. Like you are going to get every penny's worth of value out of that. Like when people hire me to coach them, they're committing financial resources to it because I want them to be like, hell yeah, I'm getting my money back. But there's also the truth of the matter is, it's really hard to be objective about your own business. There's
Yes.
a really fantastic Southern idiom that I love. It's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. Like if it's your business, you're too close to it, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times clients have been like, oh my gosh, Sharon, it's been sitting right in front of me the whole time. And I never saw it. And it's just human. It's hard to see anything that you're doing objectively. But when another person comes in and starts like sort of asking those smart coaching, open-ended questions, it's like the scales fall away from your eyes, right? You're like, I can, oh, here it is sitting right in front of me. Here's my opportunity. Here's my niche. Here's the way I can change my sales. Here's the way I can refine my offer, amplify what I've been doing. Here's how I can create a system that makes my offer scalable. All these core things, it just, you see them better when you're working with somebody else. I love that. It's hard to see it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle because yeah, we're too close. We're
I love it. I
yeah.
absolutely love it.
Use it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. And how do you work with clients now? Kind of talk a little bit about what the setup is. Is it one-on-one? Is it group? Who's the perfect candidate? Kind of where they are in their
Yeah.
journey and
Yeah, great question. So I mentioned I work exclusively with women who freelance in digital marketing, and digital marketing is a big ecosystem, as you well know. Sometimes it's women who are ads managers and they're running paid ads, Facebook, Instagram, Google. Sometimes it's copywriters, SEO specialists. Sometimes it's social media specialists, and like my background is in web development. And all of them are kind of coming into digital marketing from a specific angle. Most people first start working with me because they want to make more money and they've been freelancing, and you kind of get stuck in this like high demand, like low paying client where someone's like, hey, my budget's only $500, but I want you to build the Chrysler building for me, no, like, and breaking out of that like kind of low pay cheap mindset is hard for women who have not ever sort of had success yet. So many people come to me in that place and they're like, I don't know how to do it. So they will, my first place that a lot of people start working with me is a program that I call Convert with Confidence. And it's basically training on what digital marketing is and like the core backbone, which is sales funnels, high converting landing pages, how to develop for businesses the sales and lead generating engines that drive their websites, drive their profitability. And it's not just the mechanics of how to do it, but it's also the idea that that skill set is incredibly valuable in terms of helping businesses solve bigger problems. And the bigger problem that you solve for a business, the more valuable it is for them. Therefore, the more you get paid for it. So it's sort of starting to equip women with the tools on how to amplify what they're doing and take it up to the next level. And once they have that as a baseline, my next level of coaching is basically I want every client you get to be paying you $10,000. So I call that my $10,000 coaching cohort. That's a group training program where we are looking at niching and nailing that for you and your unique swirl, mastering the mindset that a lot of women bring to price, to perceived value, on how they're positioning their offer in order to be able to sort of break through ditching those low paying clients. And then really like, solution based selling, like do not sell the tool, sell the problem that you're solving. And it is amazing to watch these transformations that happen for women in this group setting. It's really supportive. It's a fantastic community of other women who are trying to accomplish the same things. Now, for people who have more specialized situations or further down, that I also do one-on-one coaching. That's a rare thing for me though, because obviously I only have so much time, and it's a premium offer. I prioritize that, but it is an investment that people have to be willing to make in their business. And then it's really taking them from how do I scale this? How do I take this success that I'm having and then break it to, on a much larger ability? A lot of that comes down to systems and automations and using the internet and the tools that we have to just be able to serve more people. And I've had a lot of success with that, and I help other women do that too. So no matter really where you are, if you're a woman freelancing in digital marketing, whether you're starting, whether you're ready to sort of break through and start gaining high paying clients, or if you're ready to scale, I have opportunities to work with you. I would love you to reach out. SharonHujik.com. Yeah, I have a special, if you want to learn more about digital marketing, if you go to SharonHujik.com/Tatiana, I have something special for you there. And I'm sure Tatiana will link my website down below, because Hujik is a terrible last name to easily spell. It's Sharon and then HUJIK.com. Yeah, I'll
Awesome.
thank my husband for that one.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sharon, for being a great guest. I've made some notes and also came up with the title for this episode, which is that Southern expression that you mentioned. I love it. I think it's really it really shows the essence of being coached, being advised, kind of being supported.
Yeah.
Because you're right, you can't really read the label when you're inside,
Yeah.
and that's just the nature of a business. We don't, a lot of people think that they know it all, and I've certainly been there. But I think that's the losing mindset. When you think, from the moment you think you know it all, you will be proven wrong one
Yeah.
way or another.
I actually think if you feel that way right now, you're not being stretched enough. Like, I have learned in the last 15 years of freelancing that if I'm not uncomfortable, something's wrong. Like, I want to stay uncomfortable, because then I know that my business is growing and I know I'm stretching myself. And that is really hard, to stay that uncomfortable. And it's where you want to be, to healthy things grow, and growing things hurt. Like, you look at your teenagers, their legs are aching and their shoulders hurt because they're growing. A business has to hurt. It has to be, you have to be uncomfortable in order to know that you're stretching. And that's good. It's hard, and that's good.
Well, thanks so much, Sharon, for being a great guest. I've
Good.
learned a lot, and I hope that listeners did too. Thanks again, and we hope to have you again on this
I would
podcast
love it. That would be
soon.
great.
All right. For everybody who's listening, this episode will also air on video on my YouTube channel, so check it out. And then I'll see you next week for another episode of Talks to Tatiana.